Welcome to On Location with Chris Langley. Today we're going to talk about Yellow Sky, one of the last great black and white westerns before everything went to color.
And also one of my very favorite movies that were made here. And I think one of the best. And kind of underappreciated, I think. A lot of people have never seen it, and which is kind of sad. Only people who like lots of westerns have really seen it.
It almost qualifies as film noir.
Yes, it does. Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I don't know, I've never heard many people notice, particularly at the end of the last several scenes. It is so noirish. It's really amazing. Blacks and whites and shadows and light. I don't know how much was on purpose and how much was just the way he decided to shoot it, but it's really, I think it has an excellent ending. It's one of my very favorite gunfights too, because it's so unobvious, I guess, where all the other ones are standing out in the street, boom, boom, and the bad guy dies somehow miraculously, and the good guy doesn't get hit, so.
But I also thought the character arcs were very, very good. Dude started out bad, and he got really bad.
Yeah.
And Jed, he's a designated mortality. Spoiler. Walrus, he's kind of on the edge, and he goes dark.
Yeah.
But then he comes back to the good side.
Yeah.
And Gregory Peck starts out dark, gets really dark, and has the epiphany, and everything's...
He falls in love. Is that a spoiler?
Ruined a perfectly good...
Well, it's pretty obvious from the beginning, I think, that's what's going to happen. But I like to see characters change, but I also think it's wonderful that he changes in ways that are very interesting, which shows that Gregory Peck's a really good actor, among other things.
There were a lot of character actors in this movie, both in the front and in the background.
Right.
Langley, Mr. John Russell.
Yeah.
He had a very interesting character arc.
He did. Well, I don't know, is it an arc? He seems to be not much to begin with. He's obviously more interested in the woman almost than the gold. And
as opposed to Walrus, who would sell his whiskey for a drink of water.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of... All of the characters are well developed in very, really quick ways. That's another thing that's very strong there. I think all the characters kind of show their nature and different parts of their nature as the movie goes along, and it doesn't take a lot of explaining. You just see it happening, both good and bad. People always come up to see me. They always want to see, where was Yellow Sky? And I said, well, theoretically it was down there, and I point to this open area where they put the matte painting and stuff. But I said it was never here. Oh yeah, it was. They always insist, and when I looked at the movie again, long after these people have been saying that, I could see why they said it, because the match is just spectacular. I thought, you really do think it's right next to the house and the barn, which was here, and the mine and the Arastra, and all those things are in a very small area. But it was really interesting to see how they did that. And the other thing I've always liked about it's a simple thing, the wind always going, because the wind blows quite a bit in the Owens Valley. So, and it gives a very kind of desolate, lost town kind of feeling, and I like that too about it.
The weather seemed to play a big factor at the first third of the movie. They had thunder. But
but it never rains. I thought it was raining when they went into the bar, because in my one, it sounded like it was raining, but it was dry as a bone when they come back out, so it hadn't rained. Well, we have that also in this area, where we get lots of thunder, but dry thunder, dry lightning, and we don't get rain, so that's kind of interesting. But they must have been dirty, particularly when they were shooting in the set down in the studio, where the dust is blowing in the buildings and everything else. I thought, oh my gosh, they earned their pay. So
And, you can see in the background, part of the Sierra Nevadas are covered in clouds. Then they'll lift a little bit, then they'll come down again. And then you'll see scattered clouds. It must have driven the continuity editor insane.
yes,
It's just impossible.
I noticed a few breaks there, but they had big thunderheads and really gorgeous clouds, and then it was just kind of skittery clouds going across the sky on the same day as 1 minute later. So it was probably, and that's typical of June. I mean, June and July when they filmed. So
Tell us how the Alabama Hills helped make this movie. They were kind of a star, a co-star.
yeah. I think that's true of a lot of movies that are made here. I've written quite a bit about how landscapes can be characters in movies. It's particularly true in Death Valley. Usually the success or the failure of the bad guys and the good guys is based on what the landscape is doing. But here, and it wasn't just the Alabama Hills themselves, the rocks. It was when they're trying to cross the deserts. It's certainly, you think they're going to lose them. I think that the rocks are typically two things. They're one, they get out of the way and they allow for these big epic views of the mountains, and they kind of form a frame, and then they force people into conflict, and that's what was happening here, where that's why I love the term epic and intimate landscape. That was an intimate part. They were playing the I don't know, what would you call that? The barrier that forced those two men to really conflict with each other, and I thought that was pretty powerful as well. There's so many good things about the movie but I forget those sometimes when I'm watching it because it's such an interesting movie. There's also a whole play on who smells bad and who smells good, and the girl thinks of these gangsters who must have smelled bad, if they've been traveling for, weeks. We can visit where they built the pond. It's pretty obvious still, and it's pretty close, because they do a lot of shots with the pond and the barn and the house. So that kind of shows how close they are. And then even later when they're in the mine, you can sort of see the pond and the houses and stuff. So it's almost like a set that's on a stage, which is kind of interesting. And I think it doesn't detract so much as bring the story together so that all of these elements can cement the different things that happen. And perhaps also the changes that are going on in the characters and the situations and who's in control and so on. So it's almost like a dance, I guess, or something like that, done on a stage with all of these set pieces right around there.
There's one guy that's completely dressed in black. Do you think he might be the bad guy? They're sort of telegraphing that.
I was impressed also by how realistic the mine looks from the outside, because there isn't much behind it, when we see it from the outside and when we stand where it was. I was also impressed with how much gravel and stuff there was in the movie, and there's only a little left now. And so they did clean it up, but not all the way.
I especially like the big showdown, the gunfight in the hills, in the rocks, which are always exciting. And Stretch he's on the run because it's 5 against 1. And then lo and behold, Ann Baxter shows up to save the day.
Yeah.
She helps turn the tide.
Yes, better way of saying it.
Because the fight is still on. And And it moves from the rocks into the cabin. They take the money back. Yellow Sky made about $5.8 million at the box office, which is pretty good for that time. This is On Location with Chris Langley, and now we're going to go on location.
So this is called an Arastra, and it's actually a geological machine for separating the heavier gold or silver from the rock. And what they would do is they would attach an animal to it, a mule or a donkey. I don't know if they used horses, but they may have. There, and they would drag the rock around and around and around, and that would both crush the rock and separate the ore from the rock, and then they could pull out the ore, whatever it was. In this case, it was gold, obviously, supposedly, according to the script. This one is interesting because it's also got a cement floor, which I'm not sure whether... The only other Arastra I'd seen was at a museum over on the other side of the Sierra, and I don't remember it having a cement floor, but it may have. And you can see that people have been vandalizing it to take the rocks either as souvenirs, or they were building fire rings, which we see over here with them. And either way, they wouldn't be usable now, so we're going to do a restoration of it, and we're going to match the color of the cement.
Oh, wow.
We have an artist who has actually done that, and then we'll be replacing the rocks or cleaning the rocks, depending on what works best, and building it back up. And then we're going to try and do some kind of interpretation that would convince people not to take pieces of it and use it other places.
So back in the winter when we were here, we had spent, and you weren't too thrilled about it, but an entire day freezing our heinies off while I needed to find the actual cabin of Yellow Sky.
What was
it? The house
that triggered it for you?
It was the rocks in the background, and you were saying you were very dang close to where it was, but I was having trouble with the perception.
Would you say I was actually not wrong?
You were close. And it was as with anything, as you know, going through pictures based on the lens, you can't necessarily tell. To me, it appeared that the house was far back that way by the rocks. But after an entire afternoon of freezing and finally going back, Jimmy said, why don't we get a drone up in the air and look for impressions in the earth of where the cabin might have been. And I thought, well, why don't we just use Google Earth? And I went back, and on Google Earth I traced back, and then I matched the roads where the roads would be in the movie on the stills, and was able to pinpoint the actual location. And then when we went there, we had found a piece of the foundation rock wall,
Right.
and we took a piece back to the museum to the curator,
To
our director,
analyze.
to analyze, and Sean was really thrilled about that piece, which I believe is back in the library.
Yes, it is.
So we are standing out here in the Alabama hills. We just were at the Arastra and the cave, and now we are at the location of the house, the set that Ann Baxter, her father, lived in. Behind us here would have been the map painting of the town, Yellow Sky. Found a nail, which is always an indicator to Chris Langley that something was here. I have a still shot of this road. I'll show you that it leads out with there's like an old Model T or something sitting there. This is always a true indicator that you found the set when you find a ton of nails. And definitely here, there are a ton of nails. If we head over this way, I think in the bushes, and I'm just going off memory, hopefully no one's taken it, we might even be able to find another piece of the foundation of the rock wall of the house. Let's go over there and take a look. See if it's down one. Yeah, you can see here's a piece of the form that they would have sat in. Here's some wood actually that is probably part of the fence. It's about the same thickness of the fence that has gone around the set. And yep, bingo, right here. Here's a piece of the wall. There you go, Yellow Sky fanatics. Here is the foundation. And wow, that's been sitting there a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I can lift it up and I'll show you guys there. Rock in the plaster. Oh, still heavy. Wow, there's not many pieces left.
Yeah, I don't know whether people have picked them up over the years, or if they did a pretty good job of cleaning up, not just a complete job. So.
I don't know if it was a complete good job of cleaning up. Here's another piece. You can see the rocks have been falling out of it. Yeah, we're heading over to the watering hole. As you remember in the movie, they came across that big dry lake, were parched, and Ann Baxter directed them down to the watering hole.
Yes.
We're heading to the watering hole. So here is where the lock was, or the dam, to hold back the water. You could see this is where the gate would have been that they would have raised up and down right here. Yeah, it wouldn't have been too terribly tall, but this is where they came and they watered.
So they must have walked out this way because it's right where they walked.
Possibly, but we've got two different shots. One shot shows trees here, and I'm not sure if the climate's changed a lot or if those were prop plants. Probably prop plants. But there were two trees here, and there's a shot from them back here as they're watering. So they would have come down this way.
And what always surprises me is this seemed to be the center of the pond, and yet all of this goes beyond it. So I guess the water would pour out in the creek. So
Right.
Trying to say it was a dammed creek.
Right. It didn't go too high either, just probably about a foot or two.
Right.
Which is all you would need to make the illusion of a pond.
And getting wet.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
doesn't John Russell fall in or get pushed in or something?
Yes, he does.
Because I don't know what attracted him to this area.
For the movie?
But it worked so perfectly. I mean, was it the idea of being able to build a pond here, or was it the idea of building, or was the Arastra already there? Was it a matter of locating where the house and the barn were going to be? I mean, or maybe all of those things. The scout maybe realized they could stage a lot of it here. And that's a wonderful benefit to movie companies, because otherwise they have to pack up and truck everyone, including the cast and crew, somewhere else to do another piece. But here they could basically work.
Well, you got the barn, the house,
I
the
don't
watering hole. Right over this rock here, you've got the Arastra, and then you've got the mine. I mean, everything is like right here.
And that's so perfect for a movie company.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon here, but this is a great example of it, because so many of the pieces are here. And I just wonder how it evolved. You know, what came first?
I don't know.
How did they discover it?
We may never know.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds. This is On Location with Chris Langley. This is Chris Langley. I'm Jason Brown. Jimmy T was our interviewer in the museum. Thank you for watching. If you get a chance to come out to the Alabama Hills and check out these filming locations, you will definitely have a really good time. I would probably come in fall or spring. It's really cold in the winter, and it's very hot in the summer. Thank you for watching.